Hi, Alexina. It's Stephanie and Adrian from the How to Be a Redhead podcast. How are you
guys,
doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
We're doing fantastic. We're so excited to have you on our podcast. So thank you. And we want to go right into it. So, kicking things off, what was it like for you growing up, not only being tall, but also having red hair?
I guess like many redheads that I've spoken to, we get bullied. I kind of like stood out a lot within my peer group. I think there was only maybe 2 redheads in my whole school at that moment. And again, I was really lanky, really tall. I wasn't a typical, let's say, girl next door, sexy teenager. I was like, no boobs, very flat, red hair. I used to do this thing where I was straightening my hair so much to my head that it looked terrible, but I thought it was cool at the time. And braces, it was,
Same.
It wasn't great, yeah. And also, like, I have this one story. I had braces, and this is very me. I went to the local supermarket with my friends in our lunch break, and I went to eat a sandwich, and I forgot I had gloves on, and I went to put my glove in my mouth to take my food out of my brace, and my whole glove got stuck in my brace in the middle of lunchtime. And I said to my friends, I can't go back to school with a glove in my brace. Like, it's impossible. And thankfully, one of my friend's mum worked. It was called Tesco. One of my friend's mum worked at Tesco. I was in the middle of this Tesco supermarket, and they were trying to cut the glove out of my brace with scissors so I could go back to school. Yeah, I ended up thinking, I already get bullied. There's no way I'm going to go back with a glove in my brace. So I just went home and went to the dentist. Yeah, good times.
And where did you grow up? Where are you from originally?
Worksop in Nottingham, the UK.
Okay.
But yeah, I also got lucky because I used to hang out with the popular kids. So like I was like in the backdrop of the popular kids. So I kind of didn't get bullied to an extent where it was terrible, but I wasn't cool and I got called names.
And do you feel like there's a difference growing up in the UK compared to when you see people grow up here in the United States with red hair? Like, do you feel like you're bullied more there? Or do you feel like it's getting better?
I feel like it's getting better. I feel like it's getting more accepted. I don't know. Are you guys a millennial too? Yeah. And I think...
Shout out to the millennials.
Yeah, shout out.
And I think because also a lot of women dye their hair red now. It's a thing. Like, celebrities have started dyeing their hair red. It got more accepted. And I don't really know any Gen Zs or anyone who's got red hair and how they are at school. But I feel like it's getting more accepted from what I can perceive.
I think so. I really think so. So in a Glamour magazine interview, you said ballet built up my confidence as a child. It made me feel more confident. It made me into the woman I am today. And from our social research, we see you were bullied in school. And I know we just touched upon this, but what is your message for redheads who are suffering from bullying now? You know, and we'll get into your healyourinnerchild.net next, but we feel like so many people are suffering from bullying and you had that outlet of ballet. So what is your suggestions for people who are, you know, that little girl? Like maybe someone has your same story about your braces, you know, like Stephanie and I both have braces. We have stories too. What advice do you give to them?
At the time when you're that young, it's hard, but to stand in your own truth, to be honest, because you're beautiful. You have amazing hair color. Not many people have that hair color. That's why we stand out. And I always had this very tough exterior. Underneath, I wasn't. I was a very emotional person. But my mum always called me Xena, the warrior princess, off my name, Alexina. She's like, you're a princess. You're the warrior princess. You've got this. Like, even if you're getting bullied, you're Xena, the warrior princess. And it kind of resonated with me a lot. Like, okay, I can be this tough and not show the bullies, like, this emotional person underneath. And it did help a lot. And it gave me this tough exterior to understand other people as well. Like, it's not me. It's also their insecurities and how they're feeling. And at a young age, my mother would say that a lot to me. It kind of gave me that representation of somebody else's feelings. And it's just like,
that is so true.
Stand in who you are. And you've got beautiful hair. You're a beautiful person. And you know what? we're like those cool what's like those seahorses, you know, like where it's just like we're so original and it's like woo.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And we were just talking to someone who was suffering from bullying. She's young. She's like in 7th grade. And I gave her that I told her that exact same thing that took me until my 20s to realize that when you're being bullied, it's not about you. They are the ones with the problem. Like they're the ones maybe having insecurities. They're the ones not feeling good about themselves to project that on you. And as a little kid, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm being persecuted for being a redhead. But it's really not even about your red hair because those same people celebrate you when you're older. It's just about them and their experiences. And sometimes when you take a step back and you're like, oh, you're just projecting on me. For me, anyway, it makes it so much better that I don't have the problem they do, you know, in some ways.
And I find it crazy because now I'm like, even last week I was in Trader Joe's and this lady on the checkout said to me, your hair's so beautiful. I bet you had such beautiful comments when you were younger. I was like, yeah, no, I didn't. Like, it's only when I got to adulthood, people started complimenting me on my hair. They're like, oh, it's so beautiful. Look at your hair. And I'm like, oh, this is nice compared to like before when it'd be like, you know, you wanted to dye your hair or you wanted to go blonde or just to fit in with people.
Yeah, I actually dyed my hair blonde for about 7 or 8 years of my childhood. Yeah, I started in 4th grade. And then I went all the way up until about freshman year, first year of college. But yeah, it took so much time for me to realize like actually being unique is amazing and you want to stand out. But I want to say high school was my most challenging time because it's not cool to be unique and different. And maybe it's Adrian said when we were talking to that girl who's getting bullying, she's getting ready to go to high school. So we were telling her, you know, it is something where after high school, something happens to a lot of children, you know, a lot of kids where maybe it becomes cool to be different. And maybe it changes. Maybe this was millennials and Gen Zs. And I think I have 2 little kids and I just looked it up. I think it's called Alpha. I think they're called Generation Alpha. I'm just hoping that they're just more accepting and that it's not maybe how we grew up.
And I think there's such a negative connotation on social media, but I also think there's a positive one because everyone can see everyone now. And like, there's so many different hair colors and, you know, ethnicities and we are talking to each other. Whereas, so my hometown is very small and, you know, social media didn't really have it. So it's only what you grew up in and what you knew. It was like this small world. And now with social media, at least you can see so much more, you know, out there. And it's not just like, oh, I'm alone in this. Is all the world like this? A small alone in this town. I'm the only redhead, you know?
You can fill up your entire feed with people with gorgeous red hair and feel so good about yourself. Whereas like when we were growing up, there was no one. I mean, I think we had Julianne Moore on the red carpet. I mean, I think that's it. I don't remember being represented at all. Oh, and then we had Lindsay Lohan, like when we became... you know, but then that was it. And now I'm like, these people are so lucky who are growing up as redheads now because you can just fill your feed with whatever you want. Make it positive, like make it great, you know, unfollow people who are negative, make it about, you know, whatever you love. And I think that is such a brilliance of social media. I think you're so right.
Yeah. And even like, so my sister was bullied too, but we're very, very different. We have different fathers. But she has really curly afro hair. And again, didn't really fit in our hometown. And she would straighten it all the time. And she just chemically straightened it all the time. And now it's naturally straight. And she's like, oh, sometimes I'd like to have curly hair again. But again, that's, you know, bullying and what you do to fit in.
Yeah, exactly. I know. So talk to us about Heal Your Inner Child. What is it exactly for our listeners? And how did you get started?
Okay, yeah. It's been a wild ride. I've only just started talking about it really the last 6 months. I went through something called Dark Night of the Soul. It's like a really heavy depression and sadness. And I did try and commit suicide 2 years ago. And I was just going through this really terrible place. My uncle had committed suicide. My sister had been through mental health problems. I was getting a divorce. I was kind of living in a human, very like I was ahead of my career at VS. I was doing L'Oreal, but what the outside world didn't see was I was really, really sad. Like, I put a persona on social media. I said I was all like, oh my God, this is amazing. But underneath, my family was seeing me crying. I was like, not happy. Tried to do this thing to myself. And it was like 10 seconds. I was in a depressive mode, but it was 10 seconds of like, okay, I don't want to be here anymore. And I tried to jump out into oncoming traffic. And someone grabbed me. And I just got to the floor and I just cried. And I was just like, I need help. And I didn't tell anyone for 3 days because I was very ashamed. I was guilty and ashamed that I was going to do that. And especially as my sister went through mental health problems and I did everything in my will to make her okay. And then I was just going to go and do it like that. And I just felt terrible. Finally told a friend a few days later and she said, you need to go home. You need to tell your mum and your sister, family support. Ended up doing that, went home. I had conventional therapy for a long time, and it helped me a lot. And I really praise therapists and what they do and how they help people. But I needed just something a little bit more. I needed this. There was a sadness in me that I couldn't pinpoint. And I ended up meeting a spiritual therapist. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. I grew up with a very negative connotation on religion. It wasn't for me. I just like, I believed in something, but I didn't know what I believed in. So I had this spiritual therapist, and she really helped me with moments in my personal life when I was younger to now. And then I started meditation with her, and I was always like, oh, I get so bored in meditation. Oh, I don't know. We'll give it a go, but okay. And it started like I was so anxiety ridden that I would just get down, even for 30 seconds, 1 minute when I felt that, and just sit quietly. And then over time, I built it up, and I was starting to see colors and visions. And my grandfather, who died when I was 18, would come to me, give me a message, tell me to tell my grandmother. I would tell my grandmother. She went, how do you know that? That's true. I was like, huh. Again, kind of put it on the back burner for a little bit. I was doing life. I was like, oh, that's cool, but I don't really have any, I don't want to take it further. I don't want to see what this goes. Then after everything happened, I really wanted to change something within me, and I had enough of feeling a certain way. And it was hard to explain to people because they saw me earning all this money and doing really well and being on the VS catwalk. But when you're not happy internally, none of that stuff matters. It doesn't. And people always say, oh, I want to be rich in this and this. And it's like, that's good. And I understand because you think it's going to help a lot. But I wasn't happy. I was like, not me. I had a lot of things. I was like, no. And then all of a sudden, this dark night of the soul happened. And it's going to sound absolutely nuts. But I started hearing things, and I was like, oh, what's that? Like, oh, and I would tell my sister, she'd be like, mate, be careful because you go to mental health hospital. I was like, yeah, like my family are very funny, very dry humor. Yeah. And then they would show me things, and these things would come true. They showed me my friend pregnant. They showed me an apartment, and I was like, oh, yeah, but she's not wanting to be pregnant. I wrote it down in my book, and a year later, I walked into her new apartment. It was that window. She was pregnant in front of it, and I was like...
No way.
Wow.
And then it started enhancing, and I started working with people, and I now can see, hear, feel, and talk to spirit. And they show me things.
Wow.
Mediumship comes in a lot of the times. And I only started... not doubting probably 6 months ago. It took me a long time to not think I'm a crazy person.
I'm sure. Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah.
Okay. You're like,
yeah, they give that exact face.
Yeah.
Like, what?
And then it really helped me because people who would be in front of me who I didn't know, I would tell them things and they'd be like, how do you know that? Like, what? And I'm like, it's not me. I'm just being told this to help you. And my thing is, I think because of the mental health background as well, they help people in front of me who need healing in some way. Even if you don't understand it, like they'll show me something from their childhood. And that they don't think that I will ever find out, but because it's a healing, something needs healing, they will tell me in explicit detail, and I will explain to them what it is, and they'll be like this. I had this one girl who horribly was sexually abused when she was younger, and she'd never told anybody, and she was with a friend, and I said, I think we should do it alone because you don't know what's going to come out, and I think she was a bit skeptical, and I'm like, okay, I'm just wanting to warn you, and everything's confidential, like I'll never tell anybody your name and who you are or anything, it's just between us. And she had to stop me. She said, I need you to stop because everything you're saying is true and I don't want my friend to know all this. And it's a type of healing. And then, she came back and we're working together on how to heal that part of her. And so it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. So really through your hardships, you found like it's been a blessing and really, because now you have such empathy and when you talk to certain people, you know where they're coming from. And I think those are the best kind of people to talk with and confide in, is when they've been through hard stuff too and can understand where you're coming from and you don't feel so alone, and they don't feel so alone.
Yeah. And I always say, I'm not one of those people who are woo-woo and, all that. I love human life. I love fashion. I love, connecting with people like that. But there's also this other side of me that's come out to help. And I love this side as well. Mm-hmm. And, we're all here. We're all learning every day. Like, I make mistakes every day too. I'm not saying I'm like, spiritual and, I'm never wrong. not bad. Actually, just a few days ago, I had to own a mistake that I made. And I was like, so we're always learning. We're always doing lessons. I believe that we are a soul living a human experience. And it's very exciting. And sometimes it can be friggin' hard being here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and I'm seeing where it's going. A lot's in the pipelines coming up, which I'm excited to share in a few months. But yeah, just doing life, as I say, we're doing life.
Wow. And I do feel like this is something we're so excited about too, but you were the first natural redhead to be a Victoria's Secret angel. And I actually remember
that is amazing.
I remember watching it. I remember watching it because as a natural redhead, I was like finally being represented. I mean, it was such a big moment. You were also quoted saying that you feel like being a Victoria's Secret angel comes with a lot of empowerment. And I loved that. I felt like that's what I think the purpose is of that Victoria's Secret runway show, is empowerment of women specifically. And so as the first natural redhead, like what was that experience like? And did you even know you were going to be the first redhead? Like did they make it a big deal, or when did you even find out?
No, actually, I only knew the first redhead because I think an article came out about it, but I had no idea. I always knew Karen Elson was on the runway, I think.
Yes.
But she wasn't an angel. And yeah, until an article came out about that, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't have any idea. But I just felt really empowered that there was a redhead. There has, I don't know how many there has been, probably me and just Karen. I don't know if there's been any more. But, it's important. And I don't think people realize how there isn't such a big representation of us. I think people don't see it. And sometimes I'm like, no, guys, like I say to my friends, there's not many redheads who are out there in the public eye who are showing young girls, and even when it came out that I was an angel, I got so many beautiful messages from mothers for their daughters, saying,
oh, I'm sure that must have been very nice to receive.
Yeah,
those.
And like one lady told me, like, my daughter's 12 and she's being bullied severely, and to see you on the runway, it's like amazing. And I'm showing her, like, look, there's a redhead on the runway. It's like, and it was really nice. And that's what also made me feel so privileged to have that spot. And to help other young redheads as well in that way, for them to see us in the public eye,
Of course. Yeah, that is something so special. Do you see more modeling opportunities for redheads now than maybe when you started your modeling career?
Yeah, maybe it's up and down, but with fashion, things are changing so much. Redheads are in one time, they're out. Blondes are in one time, they're out. It's so like wavy within the industry. But I do see more like on set. Actually, I've never worked. Actually, once I've only worked with a redhead once on set. Otherwise,
another model,
but not very often. Yes, but. Yeah, there is a bigger representation in the industry, but I still think it's very in the minority compared to other hair colors.
I know.
Yeah. So when you
Okay.
got like a modeling gig, I don't know
Yeah.
the right, is it
Yeah.
a gig? So you were maybe the redhead that they
Yes.
picked, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. Yeah. And then does any moments in your career stand out as your personal favorite?
You know what? L'Oreal. L'Oreal was one of the best beauty brands I've worked with. Family orientated. They care deeply about their models and the wellness of their models. And it was like a family to work with them. Like, you don't mind going to work, because L'Oreal would shoot long hours. Like, they would shoot at some 6 till midnight. It was like big chunks of it. And I met some of my best friends through L'Oreal, and the girls were just so nice to each other. There was no competition. It wasn't, I need to get to this spot, or, it was just like everyone was equal and everyone enjoyed the job. And we got to go to some beautiful locations too.
Right. No, I'm sure you have.
Yeah, that's a good bonus.
We read that you were a hair, skin, and makeup model for L'Oreal.
Yeah.
So we were wondering, as a hair model, did you ever have to dye your hair? Did they ever, say you have to dye your natural red hair? And would you, or have you ever?
For L'Oreal, no, I never did. They would put a gloss on it sometimes to enhance it, but it was never a dyed color. And I have dyed it once, and I was actually really upset about it.
That.
They made it like a bright orange. I can't even, there ain't got orange in here, but yeah, and it was so bright, but it wasn't like a normal red orange. It was like fluorescent. And I was really worried, and I was like, oh, my hair coming back. And so many people now say to me, are you a natural redhead? I'm like, well, I am, but this is not my pure color, because it's been dyed with this bright orange like 2 years ago, and it's still in there. I can still see it, And now I feel like it's like a fake.
You still do after 2 years?
Yeah, it's still.
What?
And sometimes I'm like, oh, I feel like a fake redhead now, because I actually did dye it, and they did put a brown dye through it after. But still, I'm like, oh, I want my 2 years before that redhead back. But I am a natural redhead, but sometimes I feel like a fake because I did dye it once.
And do you have to?
I was going to say, no, I was just going to say about her maintenance. Were you going to say the same thing, Steph? We have ESP, like as sisters. Mm-hmm. I knew you were going to ask that stuff, but just what is your maintenance like to keep it your color? Do you do anything, or are you just going to let it fade? Like, what are you going to do when it eventually turns white, or maybe it won't? But what are you
letting it fade? I don't do anything. I just wash it and that's it. I let it dry naturally. I try not to ever put heat products on it. And yeah, my hair goes, especially I don't know if you guys are the same, but in the summer my hair goes very blonde. Especially here. People think I'm a blonde when I'm hitting the sun, but otherwise I do nothing. And then actually a lot of clients will say to me, are you a natural redhead? Because in this photo it's very blonde here. I'm like, no, that's just what happens to my hair.
Oh my gosh, I know. For me in the summer, my hair actually gets more dull. So then I get mistaken. I have been on is your hair brown? And then I'm like, no, it's red. So then I have to up it with products at home, or else I get a questionable wait.
What are you lying about your hair?
Redhead? Yeah, and it's so frustrating because I'm like, no, I'm a redhead. It's just my hair has faded over time, like a lot of redheads experience. So it's just something. Yeah, I did want to ask you, did you notice throughout all your years modeling that your hair took a toll on all the products and the heat and constantly being worked on?
Actually, no. And a lot of hairstylists say to me, why do you have such thick hair? Why is this such good quality when I've been in the industry for 17 years? And I don't know. Nothing ever happens to it. It always stays the same. It gets thicker. There's no thinning or anything. And I thought maybe it's a redhead thing, but I don't know.
Maybe. That's so your hair is it naturally straight if you were to air dry it?
No, very wavy. I used to have really tight curls as a child, and it did come out a lot, but now it's but it's not those good waves, it's the terrible waves where you really need to do something to it if you're going to go for a night out.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah. Stephanie and I always say we could never just get out of the shower. No. My sister-in-laws, they can just jump in the shower and just go to dinner, and it just dries so nice. I'm like, I can't do that. Yeah. I need to do something to it, put some product in it, do something to it to make it look good. I was wondering too, how do you want it to be vibrant? Like if it was more vibrant when you were younger, or are you accepting of the fact that your hair has changed over time?
I'm accepting, I think I still have
Me
that
too.
small inner child in me that got bullied, and I don't want to have it bright red.
Really? Yeah. No,
even
I
as you've
get
gotten
that.
older.
I understand.
I don't know. Yeah, I think I got so used to this color now, and people commenting on this color, and it's probably just some weird trauma that I'm still carrying with me from being a child and being like, oh my god, if it's bright red again, people are going to say things to me,
Yeah.
Because when I had it dyed 2 years ago, it was bright, and I said to my agent, no, I can't. You got to tone it down. You got to tone it down. I can't go out like this fluorescent.
Yeah, well, bright orange, and then compared to what your natural color is,
I mean, that
is like
and I
polar opposite.
Yeah, and I love my hair color. Like now, I'm like, I love the color red. And actually, I never realized how red it is until people say to me, "Oh, you've got really red hair." But maybe because I look at it every day, I never really realize it. And especially in the sun, it comes out even redder.
Yeah,
but yeah,
right.
but fluorescent orange was not my jam.
Redheads, have you heard?
We aired on ABC's Shark Tank, episode 14, season 15. We are busy developing products and continuing to grow this incredible redhead lifestyle brand.
Check out our mascara and eyebrow products in red hot shades, hair care, merch, lifestyle items, and so much more. Redheads, we can now rejoice.
Finally, there are products for us.
Use code podcast to get 15% off your next purchase. Shop at shop.howtobearedhead.com. You know what's interesting too is, and I know we all love her, is Grace Coddington, right?
She's got beautiful.
She's not a natural redhead, but I feel like sometimes the redheads by choice are able to rock that vibrant hair because I don't think they had it as kids. Obviously they didn't. And then so now for them to rock it and it be so vibrant is like so cool and so accepting. But I know what you're saying as a person who's had red hair your whole life, you don't really want to be that vibrant, right?
Yeah. And
I totally
I'm
get
so
that.
comfortable with like all our hair colors are pretty similar. I know you can't really see mine. Let me see. But yeah.
It's
like,
It's
like blondish here. I don't know. It's like
It's gorgeous.
We do have very similar. It is gorgeous. Who's a redhead? Where did you get the redhead gene? Who's a redhead in your family?
No one who's alive. It was my grandparents. But they weren't.
Okay.
Love that.
They weren't red. It was like mixed with brown, so you couldn't really tell unless they grew a beard or something, and it was in the beard, the red tints. But I always felt like I was like adopted because I was like, why is no one else red? Why has no one got pale skin like me? Like what?
Like you're the token redhead in the family.
What is going on? But saying that my sister had twins, and when Oscar was born, he had a very tingy red. And my sister was like, it's like I gave birth to your child. She's like, what is going on? I'm like, yeah, that's true.
So did the red stay with Oscar?
He's now brown and Mia's blonde. So
yeah,
it's somewhere deep in there.
Yeah. Maybe if they were to have children years down the road, they could have redheaded kids.
Who knows? Yeah, maybe I'm gonna have some redheaded litters.
Yeah, I know. I know. I have two little ones, and neither were born with red hair. But my daughter looks like a little strawberry blonde at some points in pictures and in the sunlight. So I'm curious to see as she gets older what her hair color will be. I don't know. We've seen Adrian. Remember that one video we got where a baby was born? I think a mom sent it, where brown hair, and then as the child got into toddler years, redhead. Like, it's crazy. And then I know a girl that I went to college with. She was born with brown hair, and then it turned auburn, and she's a redhead. I mean, she's in her late 30s now, so her hair is faded. But it's just so interesting. Yeah, it's so interesting how that happens. Yeah. Right, I know.
I also... I also heard that when you get older, we don't go grey, we go silver.
Right, we
go white.
Silver and white.
Yeah, automatically though. It's not like we see it coming. I'm like, how does that happen like from day to day?
I'm already getting like little bits of whites in my hair, but I've been getting white since I was like 15. I don't know if anyone else has, but like I've just always had little bits of white, just like little strands. And the other day I was getting a blowout and I asked, like, do you see a lot of white? And she was like, it's probably 5%. So I'm not but I do notice it. I notice it around like my crown, and I notice it, but
Okay.
I don't know. It's not at the point right now where I need to do anything, but I have to say I'm not going to be one that goes white or gray. I'm dyeing it. I'm
Yeah.
keeping this color for the rest of my life. Like I know
think
it.
I'm the same.
I know
Yeah.
it. And I laugh because we had an aunt who lived to 100 years old, and she dyed her hair like a dark brown, dark light brown until she was like 97. And I used to ask her, why not just let it go? And she's like, well, it's automatic age. And for her, that was a bad thing, right? For a lot of people, they love to show age. It does. I love that too. It shows like wisdom, and it shows what a great life, to be able to live that life. But anyway, I was like, I think I agree with her. I just want to be red until the end.
See, for me, I feel like my hair, I don't mind going white silver, and I want to keep it long. But my face, I'm more like, oh my God, I would do all the preventative stuff I can for my wrinkles and stuff, I don't have many, but I'm just like, preventative.
Oh, no, same.
Yes. Okay. So for skin, we wanted to ask, so hormonal acne you've struggled with, but then you finally cracked the code on what works for you. So tell us what helped you banish your hormonal acne.
Okay, so I struggled for like a good few years, and especially with the job, I hated going to work because I wouldn't want to look at the monitor of the photo I'd taken, because all I would see was my acne and the bumps coming off my face. And you're like, when they say, oh, it's fine, but you're like, inside you're like, no, it's not fine. Especially when that's part of your job to, as a model, we're paid to look pristine. We're paid to have good skin. And if you don't have that, you kind of feel terrible. And then I just discovered not long ago, maybe a year and a half ago, a supplement called DIM. And that's worked wonders for me. It's to balance hormones. So I started taking that.
DIM.
And that's been working good. I actually only heard about it because I went to Kiehl's one day, like having a breakout. And he's like, just do anything for me. I just need something. Like, can you do a magic wand and get rid of it?
Help me.
Yeah. And she said, listen, I'm going to give you this, but also it's always from the gut. I'm like, yeah, people say that, the gut or the hormones. And she's like, you should take this supplement called DIM. I used to be a herbalist, and this worked wonders for a lot of my friends. So I started taking it, and they weren't as angry. And like after 5 months, it really starts to kick in. And I only get 1 or 2 now, usually around ovulation time.
Yeah.
And then I try and switch up my skincare every few months, because I feel like if you stay with the same thing all the time, your skin gets used to it as well. And I've been, actually, I've got to show you this makeup thing too. I'll come back to the makeup thing for redheads. Actually, you guys might have one actually, because I saw you have a
What
brand.
is it?
This color corrector.
Oh, we
is
don't
that
have one of
from
those
Jar?
yet.
Oh no, is that from?
I saw it on TikTok and I bought it, and it works wonders. It's called
Does it?
Aerobrian.
Yes, I've seen. Yes,
And is it green?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And honestly, I used to try the other one that everyone uses, but it was too cakey. This just feels like sunscreen, and it automatically goes to the same color as your skin. SPF in it. And I don't use any other makeup on top of this anymore. It just does everything perfectly. And I'm actually, this is not an ad. I bought it myself, and I'm like really shocked at how good it is.
So you just put it on your skin.
Yeah, just like
you don't
sunscreen.
put foundation on after, and it blends in.
That's all I've got on now.
That's good to know.
Wow, that's so nice. I'm in the same boat as you. I struggled with acne for so long, and when you figure out your skin, isn't it life changing?
Yeah.
It's life changing. It's sometimes even better than having great red hair. It's just like something about having
confident
that nice skin. Oh, it's life changing. And then I grew up with a lot with dealing with acne too, and I'm gonna try that, because I know what I still deal with, and I don't know if you do, but just a lot of redness.
Yeah.
Like my skin is still, I deal with a lot of redness, even though I don't have acne anymore.
Yeah.
I have a lot of redness. So to find like a color corrector like that.
Amazing.
Yeah, right. I know. I feel like I always have redness on my nose, which I don't know if it's the sun. Just
it's my cheeks.
It hits.
Yeah,
it's your cheeks.
Yeah.
Same. And then. Okay, so I've got some other things to show you that I found it pretty good.
Yeah, good. Love it. Love it.
So the Kiehl's lady, as well as telling me about the DIM, she gave me this cleanser, This is pretty good.
Okay.
Very gentle.
Oh, yes.
The Ultra Facial Cleanser. That's a good one.
That's
I'm
a good
into
one.
it.
Yeah.
I also only wash my face once a day now, so I do it at night time after the day's been. When I wake up in the morning, I just do water.
You do.
Then I have a very easy skincare routine now because I think sometimes the more you put on, the more your skin reacts. I have this, I think it's a vegan brand, and it's called Ghost Democracy. Have you heard of them?
Oh,
no,
Ghost
I haven't.
Democracy.
They're really good, and it's not expensive. It's like, I think it's like $17 for moisturizer.
Okay.
Wow, that's really great. And I agree with what you said on simplicity with skincare, I think is really something that I think more and more consumers should kind of understand, because I think especially TikTok, everyone just gets super, super like what's trending and what just went viral, when you have to see if the product even works for you, if it went viral. Like, who are you? We were talking to someone a while ago where they were like, oh, I bought something from a blog, an influencer, and it didn't work for my skin. But then it's like, did that influencer have oily skin? And you maybe have sensitive, dry, acne prone skin. But then like that 10, 12 plus regimen that a lot of people do, I personally like can't do that. Like putting all these different serums on your skin. So I love what you said on just doing a couple products and just keeping it really simple.
Yeah, and good quality. It seems like you're picking good quality products too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I used to, when I was younger, think that by buying the most expensive moisturizer was going to fix everything. And it's not true. Like, you know, it's not. I spent ridiculous, like $80 on a moisturizer. And for me, I was like, that's crazy. Like, no. And then this works perfectly. And it's like $17. I was like, okay.
There's some great stuff at the drugstore.
Yeah.
There's some great stuff. I know.
And I also got this. I'm trying this off Amazon. So it's like a Miracle Skin Tea Tree Clarifying Face Oil. But it's not oil because I can't use oil because it gets worse. They say oil, but it's not. It's something else. And I put 2 drops of this with the moisturizer and I put it on my skin. And this seems to be working really well for hormonal acne. Like when I get like the little... is it pulsates that come up, and it kind of stops it so much from being as red and angry. But that's all I use on my skin. That's the only products I do.
I love that too. You cocktail. That's what a facialist told me. Like cocktail your moisturizers. I every morning and night I do my moisturizer and then I drop in my serums into it and I mix it. And there's something about cocktailing the moisturizer that really does something for the skin. I notice a big difference when I do it that way.
Totally, yeah. And one last thing I'm going to mention about the skin is...
Love it.
So I like to use techie things, but I don't like to use expensive techie things. I'm like, you know, if it's going to work, it's fine. Also, like, I don't know, something that's a bit cheaper or whatever. And I was gifted this laser by Lima. Again, not an ad. I'm only mentioning it because it actually does really work. It's expensive. I think to buy it is like 3,000-4,000, and that's a lot of money. But I was going to mention it because I've been using it on my acne and on my wrinkles, and I've been doing it for 3 months, and it works. And I'm actually really shocked. Wow. I didn't think it would. And I had 3 really big acne come up here, and I used it. It usually takes a long time to go down on my face, and it went down in 2 days. And I was like, huh.
So what is it? Do you actually
you just hold it on the skin and you move it around.
Oh.
And it's the first FDA approved laser that they allow in the home, and it's just like going to a doctor's office and having it done. It's really strong laser, and you know I wasn't going to mention it because I know the price point is a lot, but it works, and I was like, you know, yeah, it works for skin.
And is it something where once you purchase it, do you have to get any like rechargeable things, or once you purchase it,
it's got a battery in it, and they give you the charger with it, and you just charge it. If you use it over 4 hours, you have to charge it again. But I do it every hour. Like I just sit in front of the TV, and I'm just like, but yeah.
And then you put it all over your face.
Yeah. So... if you've got problem areas, you can hold it on for a good 3 minutes on the problem areas, wrinkles or acne. And then I usually do it once all over for 15 minutes after.
And what's it called again?
Lima, Lyma.
Lima.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It kind of looks like, we call it a changer, a remote control. It kind of looks like because you said sitting on the couch. I'm like, oh, it's like you're putting a remote control
and it's
around
like
your face. But
a red
yeah.
light.
Oh, it turns on like that. Okay, so it's almost like the red therapy masks you see that people use.
Yeah, but apparently
right?
this is much stronger, and it goes like 10 millimeters down or centimeters. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that, but it's like really far into the skin, so it gives a good cell turnover.
And the fact that it's FDA approved, that's
I've been doing it on the plane. I went to Brazil last weekend, and I was like, 10-hour plane ride, I'll just do this. I look crazy. Like, I was sat by the window, and there was
I do the same
people
thing
next to me, and I was just like...
No, that's the best time to do skincare is on the airplane because your skin is so dehydrated when you get off a plane.
So elevated, yeah.
I do it all. I do a face mask. I do serums. I do lotion. I mean, I do my whole skincare routine on the plane, like over again, because I hate that feeling when you get off a plane and you feel thirsty and your skin feels dry. I hate that feeling.
Totally.
So I'm always trying to like drink more water and do all that fun stuff. But I really, I feel like we didn't really touch upon how amazing it is at what you're doing with the mental health journey. I really want to spend like our last minutes talking about what's next for you. And, I feel like you've only started to skim the surface when it comes to all of this great work. So what's next for you with modeling and your mental health journey and all the help that you're doing for others? I'm so intrigued and excited for you.
I don't know. I've got things coming up. I can talk a little bit about it. I wrote a book. So that will be coming out sometime.
What a huge accomplishment.
Sometime this year. But it starts with 2 moments of trauma from my childhood, and also realizing my own red flags, my own self-awareness, the person, like all of us, we've upset people in our time, and, we need to know our own red flags and understand ourselves. I talk about that. To relationships, to modeling a little bit, but it's more about my personal life and how I've gone through life. And then on to channeling and reading Akashic records and speaking and seeing and feeling the energies.
Yeah, it's almost like you, with healing your inner child, it's, and maybe you've thought about this with your self-reflection, but you had to go through your journey to now help others, which is a really beautiful thing, because the amount of people that I'm sure that you have helped, you're going to help in the future, especially with your book, that it's almost part of your journey. And I did want to say too, one of the things that you mentioned earlier, I couldn't agree more with happiness. I think that's like, money and everything is extra bonuses, I think, in people's life, depending on what they're seeking and but at the end of the day, happiness is the root of everything. And I love that you said that.
I never judge anybody's journey. It's who you are. It's what makes you happy. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But just for me, it was just, I had to find the truth within me, the happiness within me, because I wasn't at that moment. I was very grateful and very lucky for what I'd accomplished and how far I'd gone. And I always say I'm so grateful for what happened and everything. But then it got to a point where I needed to understand myself. And that's what I managed to do. And that's what I hope to do with Heal Your Inner Child, and, bring clients reach out to me and ask for a reading. But then it's so much more than just a reading. And we end up talking for a little bit, and,
well, you're connecting on such a level where people are being vulnerable with you, and you've experienced certain, things, so you can relate, and it's just something where, you're really touching people's lives.
And I always say I'm very lucky. I come from a very grounded family.
It helps.
Yeah, my mother, my father, my sister, we're all very close. We're all very talking all the time.
Same with Adrian and I.
My sister is a mental health worker. She works and helps.
Wow.
People with mental health. So it's really good just to have that family support as well, and all be together.
Yeah, if there's one saying I think is so it's overrated by how important it is when someone says whatever makes you happy. You hear that your whole life. And I kind of just always just was like, what does that mean? Like when I was younger, like, what does that mean? And now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, it's really the purpose of life.
So true. Yeah.
Is to be happy. And no matter what it is, and I think what shocks me all the time, and it's such a beautiful thing, is how every single person, happiness strikes them in a different way. And I love that, because it would be such a boring world if we were all the same. So I am always intrigued by what makes people happy, you know, and I'm sure people are intrigued by what makes me happy. And I think that's the beauty of being a human being. And I think it's not the same. So when you see your friends being happy for, I don't know, let's say climbing the corporate ladder, or you see your friends happy because they're a stay-at-home mom, or you see their, you know, whatever it is, it's like, you need to celebrate that person, because that's what makes them happy. And then maybe they'll understand more about you and what makes you happy. And I think that is like the most underrated saying in the world, is just be happy. Because yeah, just like your story, you know, you were walking the biggest runway in the world and you weren't happy. Yeah. And then now you found that happiness. And that's such a beautiful, like, don't you feel like that's one of your biggest accomplishments?
Yeah.
Than even modeling?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I just always say, like, the journey was meant to get me to this place. And people always say to me, do you regret anything? I'm like, never. Like, do you regret your marriage? Because I was married at one point. I said, no, that person taught me a lot of things about myself. I know that person.
Yes.
My career.
Every person in every moment in life, you learn something from.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful for the career I've had too. And hopefully it'll keep going. And I love being in this industry. But there's just, I say a lot to a lot of models now, which I've learned from when I was younger. I never knew what I wanted to be. I never had any idea. I didn't have any aspirations to be anything. But I would say now to the generation of models that are coming in, to have something, a hobby or a passion that you love by the side of your career of modeling, because modeling isn't forever. Modeling comes and goes. You know, as a model, we get anxiety because, oh my God, we're not working this month, or, you know, and it's paying the bills. And so if you have a passion next to it, I'm not saying you have to have a job in that, but to have a passion and work on that passion, I wish that I had done that, because then I don't have those freakouts as much.
Right.
Yep. And I pulled up my phone because I pulled up your Instagram because Adrian and I were talking. We love the quote that you have in your Instagram bio that says, don't compare your journey to anyone else's. This is your path and you are carving out your own. And we love that. We think that that's so important, and maybe it's so relevant right now for our listeners, like comparing yourself on social, or if you're a redhead and you're the only redhead in your group of friends. And comparing, I'm sure that you've experienced that with being a model, but I think it's just one of the things that will give you ultimate happiness is to not compare, that everyone's journey in life is so different, and we all beat our own, you know, we all are beating our own drum, and it's something that we all have to embrace.
Agree, 100%.
Yes.
I love it. Well, Alexina, thank you so much for coming on the How to Be a Redhead podcast. You know, Stephanie and I know we're going to talk about this after. Just, there's something about you. I can see why you have clients, because I want to just talk to you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.